Hey guys, MC Stu here, and today I'm going to go over some basic bridge officer abilities, what I consider to be the best free or craftable four mainly bridge officer abilities that everyone should be using, especially on the beginning and new level of gameplay. So when I'm leveling up a character as bridge officer seating is opening up, and somewhat depending on the ship, but most ships are going to be able to accommodate these four things. I am adding them in, and I am also going with the higher tiers or higher seating of those as those bridge officer abilities are opening up on my ships as I level up. There are certainly additional bridge officer abilities that are excellent and you will certainly want to use. So because I don't mention any of those in this video, I'm not discounting them, and in fact I use obviously quite a bit of them. So there's quite a bit more seating available than just four, but these are the main ones that you're going to find on all of my builds, for the most part on the free-to-play, with the exception of science builds. And at some point when you progress far enough and can get the proper duty officers, a lot of builds it makes sense to go to the aux to bat configuration, which is a little bit different, at least for the cooldown portion, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is my free-to-play account. This is my tier 5X Odyssey tactical cruiser. I love it. It's a beautiful looking ship and I'm having a lot of fun with that. If you haven't used your coupon yet that you got free a few weeks back for the free tier 5, I did put together a video that kind of walks through some of the things you're going to want to consider when you're picking that ship, and I encourage you to check that out. I will go ahead and link it at the end of the video here. Also, if you like the content you've been seeing and want more of that, want to be notified, please give me a subscribe, a thumbs up, and ring the bell so you know when the latest videos are uploaded or when I go live on YouTube. All right, so this can be a quick video. We'll just jump right into it. There's basically three things or four things that I prioritize, and they're depending on the seating on the ship. I probably would add one additional, and I'll go into that here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get emergency power to weapons 1. That's most likely, well, that is what will be available to you first as you're unlocking the bridge officer seating on your ship. That is going to give you a substantial boost to your energy weapons. So that's going to be cannons, or beams, torpedoes. Obviously, it doesn't affect that, and science abilities obviously it doesn't affect that either. As you're able to get higher bridge officer seating, you're going to want to go with the with the 2 and with the 3. So the 3 is going to be your lieutenant commander slot for the max on that. Next, I'm going to want to fit in attack pattern beta, and generally that's going to be 1, which falls in the lieutenant section of your bridge officer seating. And the reason I go with 1 is because I'm going to prioritize my main firing mode. Most ships, at least on the beginning levels, and your tier 5s especially, you're most likely not going to have commander tactical. So generally, for me, the beam builds are what I tend to lean towards. So on this particular, and let's talk about attack pattern beta. So that's going to upgrade your weapons for 10 seconds, and it to the target, it's going to give it -30 all damage resistance rating for 5 seconds, and then it also gives them a negative stealth, so that's gonna help with like their cloaking ability, your ability to target them. The damage resistance reduction is pretty big, and it's a very good trait. So basically your bridge officer ability, so when you are doing damage to the enemy, your damage is exponentially greater to them because their resistance to it is much less. Next, we have the firing mode, and for this example, I'm using beam overload. Like I stated, that's kind of what I like the most personally, but you could use fire at will here. You could use scatter volley. You could use rapid fire cannon as well. So any of the energy weapon type buffs, firing modes, you could use in this position. And like I said, I like beams, and that gives a pretty substantial boost to the damage going out. Lastly, the Photonic Officer. Photonic Officer is an excellent trait. I feel like it's something that especially newer players aren't real aware of, especially when you read the description, and I do have a full video just going over Photonic Officer. In the past, people would use copies of two of the same firing modes, and what would happen is, you'd click it, you have your 25 or 30 seconds. I have some duty officers that are making this a little bit faster, but it would put the second one on a 15-second cooldown, and then you could click that again, and you could keep them up almost full time, or 2/3 of the time. So the firing mode lasts for 10 seconds, and the minimum cooldown you can get it to is going to be 15 seconds, so half of the base, which on this one is 30. You don't need to do that if you run at a minimum Photonic Officer 1. Photonic Officer 1 is going to reduce your recharge time by 2% every second that's ticking. So if I click this again, we're at the 25 seconds, and then I click Photonic Officer, you're going to see that this ticker is going to speed up. It's going to kind of jump ahead and slow down and jump ahead, and that's going to achieve the same thing as having multiple copies. And most ships, you're not going to be able to put the same kind of tier copy in, so you're going to rotate between beam overload 2 and beam overload 3. So that's the 4 that I focus on. As you're leveling up, you're most likely going to start with with emergency powered weapons 1, beam overload 1, and then once science opens up, this can go in the lieutenant slot. So once you get to a lieutenant slot open, this is going to go in next. So by the time you open this slot up, you're most likely going to be at beam overload 2 and potentially emergency powered weapons 2. Once I start to open more of it up and have more available, then I'm going to drop in attack pattern beta. So these are not in order by priority, they're in order by how I activate them. So again, you're going to want to prioritize emergency power to weapons, and then emergency power to, not emergency power, beam overload, or whatever kind of firing mode for energy weapons that you have chosen to use. And then next is going to be Photonic Officer. And then once you have enough room, you're going to drop in attack pattern beta. There's a whole host of other things that you could put into this. And so this is my power chain bar. This is what I'm constantly trying to keep up. I made this specific bar for this video for this example. And so you can see what I'm actually running on this build. Let's drop this back down, is a whole bunch more stuff, right? So torpedo spread, there's some box bridge officer abilities, some captain's abilities, there's some science healing stuff that procs the critical severity, critical chance. So there's all kinds of other things that are important and very useful, but my point on this video was the extreme basics of where you want to start, and that is, can I click this button? There we go. And that is going to be 1, 2, and 3, and then working this in, and then I would also be working in a torpedo spread. It's important to me, but the rank of it is not as important. So having a torpedo spread, 1 is perfectly fine, and that would be the 5th one that I would then work into it. As you're able to build resources and get more, higher end bridge officer abilities, you'll start dropping those in and filling those in, but these won't ever change. It doesn't matter on my paid account where we're doing high-end DPS. You're going to see these abilities here every single time for anything that is not science or torpedo build. The only thing that you'll see that will change is going to be, in most cases, Photonic Officer will go away and we'll use a aux to bat configuration, so 2 copies of auxiliary to batteries, along with a set of duty officers that will then cool the abilities down. But other than that, the rest of this stuff will remain the same. And even on some builds where you can't have 2 copies of auxiliary to battery, we will still use the Photonic Officer. So this is really kind of the core of any of my builds in terms of bridge officer abilities, and you want to just click them in order. And last one's going to put them on all on cooldown, and you're going to find you're just going to be blowing through the enemies in your TFOs and also in your storyline missions. Do make sure that your weapons power is maxed out. I like to have my engines up, but with weapons power maxed and running this power chain here, when you start engaging, you're going to do very well, and you're going to be very happy with that. Provided the rest of your build, you're following the basic build methodology. I do have a video on that. It just kind of a brief overview. It talks about making sure that all of your weapons are all the same type. You're boosting all the same type of weapons. You don't have like 4 torpedoes on it and things like that. At least there are torpedo builds, but not at the beginner stage, and it takes quite a bit to make something like that viable to where you're not going to be having a bad time doing it. So if you're following the basics of the shipbuilding, and you're using the basics on the power chain here of your bridge officer abilities, adding in things that make sense for your build as you go along, you're going to be very happy and have a very good time. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, ring the bell, so you'll be notified when I have new videos that go up or when I live stream on YouTube. So until next time, everybody have a good one and stay safe. Thank you.